Hello, everyone. My name is Konstantin Bulatov. I'm a Chief Technology Officer at OCR Studio. And today, in our webinar, I would like to talk to you about omnichannel identity document capture. So, firstly, who are we? OCR Studio is an international AI company focused on document scanning and document analysis and recognition. Our optical character recognition technologies allows to extract data from various types of objects, such as bank cards or phone numbers, and documents such as ID cards, passports, driving licenses, visas, and more. And we build solutions specifically for banks, for fintech organizations, for public service companies, and other industries where fast and accurate document check and ID check is a critical component. When we build our solutions, we align these solutions with our main principles. So, firstly, the scanning should not only be accurate, which is obvious, it also should be quick. It cannot involve any unnecessary transmission of information. We have to maintain the highest possible level of data security, especially when dealing with identity documents. Our solutions should work potentially on any platform because we should not dictate our customers which hardware and which platform to use. Our customers should tell us what they already do use, and we must comply. And the same functionality and the same level of service should be available on all of these platforms and all of these use cases. In today's webinar, I'm going to talk to you about OCR ID Scan, which is our core solution designed for ID processing, for identity document processing. It's a software product, software development kit, SDK, designed to extract data from a wide range of official documents, international passports, national ID cards, driver licenses, residence permits, visas, and many others. OCR ID Scan supports over 100 languages, works with various types of input. It could be a photo, it could be a scanned image, it could be a live video stream. This makes it adaptable for different environments and use cases, from self-service kiosks to web pages to mobile applications of banks, for example. It doesn't only extract data from ID, it also can compare faces between a person, like from a selfie who is using the document, and the photo which is printed on the document. And it can also check structural consistency of the document, layout compliance, and detect possible signs of tampering with the document, thus detect several types of fraud. And all this is done in line with our main principles. So high accuracy, high processing speed, complete data security, and cross-platform compatibility. We know that our clients work in different settings, and OCR ID Scan is built to adjust to their technical and operational needs. Now, ID scanning, it's not something which we invented. ID scanning is everywhere today. In mobile banking apps, at airports, checking, self-service kiosks, in your favorite crypto exchange KYC flow, or even in Telegram or Discord messenger apps now for age verification. However, most ID scanning tools are typically built and integrated for a single use case. So, for example, you might be able to scan your passport at a kiosk, but not in a mobile app. Or you can scan it in your mobile app, but not on a web page. This leads to each process requiring an ID being automated only partially. For example, only on a website or only via an app. Or it could have different processes or different sets of functionalities depending on the channel. So at OCR Studio, we believe that ID capture should not be restricted to a single channel. It should work wherever your users are and wherever they might need it. Could be on your website, on your on-site point of service, or a self-service kiosk, or in mobile app. If the process requires presenting an ID, then your user should be able to use ID scanning on all of these channels. And that's exactly what we mean by omnichannel ID capture. That is why we offer OCR ID scan as a set of SDKs, one for each major integration environment. There is a mobile SDK for iOS and Android apps. There is a server-side SDK for basically anything from desktops to backend. And there is also a web SDK built using WebAssembly for browser-based flows. All of these environments, they use the same core solution, the same core engine, and share the same options for configuration. So the scanning accuracy and output would be consistent across systems. And this allows businesses, our clients, to implement ID capture exactly where it's needed without having to restrict themselves by the available use cases. I will now describe the three major environments, starting with the mobile one. So the technologies developed by OCR Studio allow our customers to perform scanning of ID documents from images stored on their clients' iPhones or Android phones, and more importantly, to scan ID documents directly on their smartphones in real time using the phone's video camera. The scanning does not require sending any data to any external processing services. OCR Studio SDK is designed in such a way to scan directly on the device using only its own computational capacity. Let me show you how it works. So to demonstrate how ID scanning works, I'm going to use our demo application OCR Studio. You'll be able to freely download it and test it from App Store and Google Play as well, and also see which kind of documents it supports. Now, since we know that no data ever leaves the device when we do the scanning, I'm going to turn out the airplane mode. This does not affect the recognition at all. And let us now try to scan the passport. And that is how it's done. So it extracts the graphical fields, such as signature and photo, and it extracts all the textual information as well. Let's now try the ID card. And it works the same. It extracts the Arabic fields, it extracts the Latin-based fields, etc. We can also check the faces, although since that is not me, that's not even a real person, the face similarity is only 1%. So everything you saw is completely offline and available for integration into your application, which is the main idea of our mobile SDK. What is the mobile SDK package? The mobile SDK package, what we provide to our customers, is a package, rather two separate packages, one for Android and one for iOS. It contains the ID scanning library itself, the configuration, which encodes the resources required to scan the set of documents which is requested, the documentation, and the buildable sources of a sample application. So when you need to integrate the SDK into your app, you can simply add the provided library into your project. You use the sources of the sample application in order to build an activity or a controller which would scan the ID. You can modify the sample application code. You can modify the UI of the scanning process itself, which you cannot modify without a help, is the configuration and the library, the scanning library itself. You can go to our GitHub page and you can review the documentation and the code of the sample application for Android and for iOS. And you can even build and run the examples there, but they don't contain the actual ID scanning library. To get that, you need to leave a trial request on our website. So let me quickly show you what's included inside the SDK package for iOS, for example. Okay, so the SDK package for iOS, the one you get after a trial request or if you're a client, it will contain a doc directory, which contains full documentation of our system and a quick start guide in a README file. There is a directory called OCR Studio SDK, which contains the source code for the actual controller who performs the scanning. OCR Studio SDK core directory contains the binary of the library itself, low-level headers, and the configuration file. And the samples directory contain, well, in this case, only one sample written in Swift as a buildable Xcode project, which you can use to directly run on your phone. If we can show the phone now. As you can see, this is what I just launched, and you can start scanning right away. Okay. From this, you can proceed to integrating this code into your own project. So mobile ID scanning from OCR Studio is a powerful tool to enable real-time ID scanning directly in your native iOS or Android applications. The SDK itself supports a lot of different document types, more than 4,000 different templates and variants of ID documents from different countries. It scans quickly, accurately, well, you saw that, and with absolute security, since all processing happening strictly on the device. A real power feature of this method of integration is the ability to efficiently perform video-based scanning, because we not only recognize a single image, we actually scan multiple different video frames in a single recognition session, and this allows us to perform the recognition as reliably as possible. The mobile SDK integration is the optimal solution if you need to automate ID-based onboarding or any kind of process which requires presenting an ID in your native mobile application. Let's move on to the next type of integration, which is server-side. While mobile scanning works well for on-device integration, there are obviously many cases where document processing needs to happen either in a centralized environment or on a backend environment or on desktop applications, for example. So imagine you need to allow customer to upload their ID, for example, from point of service or from the website to the same channel, or your customer comes to an actual physical office where your employee takes their ID and they need to perform the scan, and then this scan goes to the backend server process for processing. So in these scenarios, scanning must happen inside the organization's infrastructure in order to exclude any unnecessary data transmission. So the solution must be autonomous inside the customer's infrastructure, and it mustn't have any dependencies on cloud services, especially if we are talking about industries bound by data protection regulations such as telecoms or government or banking. And this is where server-side ID scanning comes in. Because the server-side ID scanning server-side SDK is basically the most flexible way to construct any kind of scanning pipeline using our software. The SDK itself is built for the platform which is requested. It runs on Windows and runs on macOS and runs on different types of Linux operating system distributions. And it supports integration through many different program languages. So for example, the main library is still written and exposes a native C++ interface, but it also has wrappers for C#, for Java, for Python. And we are also open to extending this list of wrappers if the customer requests it and if there is an actual need. The package, as with the mobile case, includes the core recognition library, the wrappers, the language samples, the documentation, and the configuration file. So what truly sets OCR Studio Server SDK apart is its ability to fit into any kind of complex enterprise ecosystem and stay there reliably and long term. With this solution, you will have complete control over infrastructure because you will control the device which performs ID processing. You will never need to think where the ID images and passport images which you process, where they get transferred, because there is no dependencies on any kind of external cloud solutions, external cloud services. You always, as a client, as a user of the Server SDK, can control where your data is located and where it is processed. Obviously, everything which I told comes with high speed and accurate document recognition because it is the same core system for ID processing. And it's an ideal solution if you need to build desktop applications, if you have self-service kiosks with their own computing device inside. So not like a thin client, but a thick client kiosk. And if you need to build ID scanning automation, ID scanning functionality in your backend of your service. Okay, now to the third environment. If the main channel of data acquisition is a web app, a web application, you can use the server-side integration as we talked before. So you can do, for example, capturing of ID using a front end and then sending this ID to a backend server for processing. But thanks to WebAssembly technology, even complicated, computationally intensive tasks can now be performed directly in the browser, of course, if you know how to port this into this WebAssembly technology. And so for web-based applications, the server side is now not the only option. We have a specific web SDK. And with this approach, images, photos, video feeds do not get transferred to any processing server when we need to do the ID recognition. Instead, the recognition actually happens in the browser. So instead of sending the images to your server for processing, the web page on the client side loads the scanning module from your server to your browser page, to your client's browser page. It compiles it for the platform they use to run the browser, and then the scanning can now happen on the client side. So it ticks actually a lot of boxes all at once. All modern browsers already support it. From the point of view of the client, the ID scanning is now launched completely seamlessly in the web application. And at the same time, the security is preserved, which is the main point. We still ensure that the most critical data, the images of sensitive documents, do not get transferred anywhere. They will always be processed only on the client's device. Let me quickly demonstrate how WebAssembly-based scanning works with the web camera feed. If you have an ID card or driving license of United Arab Emirates, you can test it also yourself using our demo application website demo.ocrstudio.ai. So in this web page, the WebAssembly module for scanning UAE ID cards and driver licenses have already loaded. And so we can just show the document to the web camera. No need to perfectly align it. The system will find the document and find all the fields itself and perform the scanning. Again, extracts all the information you need. So, when you integrate our web SDK, there are some differences with respect to the mobile and the server one. Firstly, the WebAssembly module is a single binary which needs to be loaded from the server to the web page. And that means there is no separate configuration file. We embed it inside the library. Secondly, the delivery actually typically consists of multiple WebAssembly modules because all modern browsers support WebAssembly, but some browsers support some features and some don't. That's why we actually provide multiple WebAssembly modules, which are selected depending on which browser the client uses. Thirdly, there is an additional server-side component, which is built with our authorization SDK, and it is required to sign or to unlock every recognition session which is performed with the WebAssembly SDK. This is done for security reasons. The authorization SDK, which allows every recognition session to proceed, is still controlled by our customer. It still does not depend on any external resources, and it is hosted, again, on-premise, sometimes on the same server which hosts the actual WebAssembly modules, or it could be a different endpoint. This doesn't matter, it depends on the architecture desired by the customer. And of course, the WebAssembly package contains the JavaScript wrapper, which contains the code which performs the scanning using this WebAssembly module, and the sample application, which can be used by your developers to get started with, to already perform the recognition and integrate this into your own website. So, from my personal point of view, the introduction and integration of WebAssembly-based and WebAssembly-powered image processing, document scanning technologies is a slow and quiet revolution in the ID scanning field, because this recent technology allows to build in-browser solutions with functions previously reserved only for native applications. Because the same scanning on the same web page will also happen in the mobile device or on Windows device, macOS device. This is an ultimate cross-platform solutions. Everywhere where you can run a browser, a modern browser, and in the same device, you will be able to run the ID scanning only using one SDK, the WebAssembly SDK. So WebAssembly-based technologies created by OCR Studio can transform and enhance both your websites, but also progressive web applications. If you don't have a native iOS or Android app, if you use PWAs, then you can use our WebAssembly to integrate the scanning into your progressive web application. Or Messenger mini apps, which are basically, again, progressive web application or web pages. So in all these types of web-based channels, you can now use ID scanning because of the WebAssembly-based technologies by OCR Studio. That was the third environment. So, to sum up all three, the way people interact with services, online or offline, is very different depending on the context. Sometimes they want to get the service using the mobile application. Sometimes they want to go on a web page. Sometimes they actually want to go to an office and physically talk to some person. We believe that ID scanning automation should be equally available across all these points. And we specifically built our product, specifically built OCR ID Scan, in order to facilitate integration of ID scanning into any scenario which is required by the customer. So Our software can be integrated where it's most convenient for you and for your users. And this is what we mean by omnichannel ID capture. Okay, so I think that's all for today from me. We hope this session helped you better understand how to integrate ID scanning into your environment and how omnichannel ID capture really can improve your user's experience and security and operational flexibility of your business. If you like to explore OCR ID scan further, we invite you to visit our website, try our live demos, the mobile demos and the WebAssembly demo, or reach us directly. We'll be happy to help as well. ID scanning is not the only thing that we do. We also offer solutions for quick and accurate barcode reading, which works in any condition, bank card scanning for mobile banking applications, for example, or for payment gateways, ID authentication attack detections, machine readable zone scanning, and other custom solutions as well. And all the solutions that we build will still, as I mentioned before, align with the main principles. The same secure, fast, and cross-platform scanning, which we do for ID scanning, is also applicable to any other product that we do at OCR Studio. So let's stay in touch, and thank you again.